All right, class. So today, just a quick review on absolute value. So yesterday we talked about that absolute value is the distance from zero on the number line. And yes, you're correct. It's always positive, but there's a reason why, and that's because it is a distance. It is a distance. Absolute value symbols are also grouping symbols, so they're like parentheses. So when we simplify expressions, we're going to do those first. So just a couple examples here. These are found in your study guide. This is actually number 3. So I'm going to substitute in my known values. And then I'm going to work inside the grouping symbol, inside the absolute value. So I'm going to add -4 and -6 to get -10. I can then do the absolute value. The absolute value of -10 is +10. And then 5 plus 10 is 15. And I have simplified that expression. Next example, substitute in my known values. W is -4 minus 4 times 2. It's all inside the absolute value symbols. So I would do the multiplication first. The 4 times 2 is 8. I'm now adding the opposite, so I have the absolute value of -12, which is 12. This next one here, we've got the absolute value of y, which is 1/2 times z, which is a -6, minus 4 times w, which is a -4. That's all inside the absolute value symbols, minus w, which is a -4. So working on the inside here, I can do multiplication. So there's a -3. I'm going to bring down that minus, and then 4, bringing this down. And then the 4 times -4 is a -16. But then I'm going to add the opposite. So on the inside, I end up with the absolute value of 13. Subtract a -4. We add the opposite again. Absolute value of 13 is 13. So I'm ending up with 13 plus 4, which is 17. So we follow our same order of operations, just making sure we're looking at the absolute value symbols as grouping symbols. Next, we're going to talk about solving absolute value equations. So the steps are going to be, we're going to want to isolate, keyword, isolate the absolute value symbol. So get that absolute value by itself. And then we're going to rewrite as two equations. So if I have the absolute value of x minus a is equal to b, I would write that as x minus a equals b, and x minus a equals negative b. So I'm setting it equal to that value and the opposite, or the negative value. And then I'm just going to solve both sides, or both equations, and I will have my solutions. So number 2, and this is an example from your study guide again, I'm going to want to isolate this absolute value symbol. So to do that, I would add 5 to both sides. Now I've got the absolute value of t minus 4 is equal to 5. And now I'm going to rewrite this as t minus 4 is 5 and t minus 4 is negative 5. Solve each one, add 4 here. So t is 9. Add 4 on this side, and t would be negative 1. And those would be my two solutions to that equation. If you plug them both in, they both check. I'm going to skip down here to number 3, a more basic example here. This is one where the absolute value symbol is by itself, so then I just rewrite. X minus 5 is 45. X minus 5 is negative 45. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. X is going to be 50. I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and x will be a negative 40. And those will be my two solutions, and they will both check. Backed up here to number 5. So if I'm going to isolate this absolute value symbol, I would need to subtract the 16 first. So now I get the absolute value of 5b plus 9 is equal to a negative 14. And typically we would think about rewriting this as two equations, but if we think about this, can the absolute value of something ever equal a negative number? No, it's always positive. So this one would have no solution. Anytime you've got the absolute value of something equals a negative number, there's no solution to that. Number 10, we've got an example where we have a couple different occurrences of the variable. The absolute value is by itself, so I'm going to rewrite this. So I have 3x minus 1 is equal to 2x plus 11. And then I'm going to have 3x minus 1 equals the opposite of that, which is negative 2x minus 11. I'm going to solve both sides. So I could subtract 2x. I could add 1. And I'm going to get x to be 12. Over here I can add 2x. I'm going to add 1. Which is a negative 10, and x would be negative 2. Again, I want to check both those answers. Putting 12 in, I'd have 3 times 12 is 36 minus 1 is 35. Absolute value of 35 is 35. 2 times 12 is 24 plus 11 is 35. That checks. Negative 2, I'm going to have 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Minus 1 is negative 7. Absolute value of negative 7 is 7. And then 2 times negative 2 plus 11 is also 7, so that also checks. So the big thing when solving an equation is to isolate the absolute value, rewrite it as two equations, and then solve.